pulled you over?
Because I was at the stop sign for too long.
Yeah, what's up with that? Why was you just sitting there?
I was just waiting for it to turn green.
I feel it's better than running through it. Where you headed?
I'm headed home.
Okay, where you live?
With my parents.
Okay, and where do your parents live?
They live with me.
Okay, and where do you all live?
We all live together.
Okay, so where's your house?
It's next to my neighbor's house.
And where's your neighbor's house?
Ooh, you wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Try me.
Next to my house.
Step out the car, please.
I'm going to jail?
Yep. Do you know why I pulled you over?
I don't know why that video made me laugh so hard.
That's funny. Yeah, I saw that like a few weeks ago, I think.
That was funny.
You always see everything and tell us everything we show is old.
Yeah, it's just what happens when you're a Zoomer.
I gotta tell you.
We're Nick's Mark.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah,
Mark
that's
is
right.
our Mark, we're Nick's Mark.
All right, well, people won't understand that, but Mark will send stuff to the group chat that we all saw like a month ago, and we're like, "Yeah, Mark, we saw this one already." Like,
At least that's when he was not on Twitter, and then you gifted him one of your
one of my
2,000
extra
follower
accounts. Yeah, that Twitter returned to me. You guys are a tough crowd, man. Like, we're 2 minutes late. Look at this, very late. They're on Italian time. Like,
wow.
We were discussing some things.
I was making fun of Anthony, really.
Yeah. I'm thinking about bringing trivia back, and I know this is like a very I know everybody gets mad when I say this and then I don't follow through. But I've really been thinking I've really been thinking about it because but if we do it, I want to do it differently. And I want to open it up to the people that we have on locals. I want to give them a chance to play, like actually come on screen. And I want the the problem is, like, we already have 85 people and the show started 3 minutes ago, right? And the problem, we used to have about 30 people watching our live shows. We get up to like 250 now, sometimes, you know, even more. So it will be very difficult to run the game the way we used to. So we might have to do it where the only people who can participate for a prize are the locals people.
Like we will only look at the locals chat to
keep score. Where the people in the regular chat can play and will throw their answers up, but they're not going to be able to win. Like, there's just going to be too many people throwing their answers up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but if we're doing it for our locals only subscribers, we'll make the prizes better. Like, I want to do like $100 cash prizes, but Rob's like, I might get into some legal trouble.
Yeah, that might be considered gambling. Instead, we're going to give away handguns behind me.
Like,
no, we're not.
Well, could we give away gift cards? Or I want them to be like legit prizes.
I think gift cards are fine.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
So like maybe we'll just do Amazon gift cards or something, you know, because then you could buy anything.
Yeah, something like that, I think.
Like, the thing is, we could go with like rosaries or something. Speaking of locals, it dawned on me that locals probably has an app, and the app is probably easier than the website. Yes, Molly. Yeah, that would be true.
It's okay, Molly. I'm the same way. I always look for websites.
Well, the thing is, it would be it would push people to locals, obviously, and it would also
so basically what has happened here, guys. Why this is suddenly coming back up is Anthony has figured out a way to use trivia once again.
Yes, but no, it's also to, dude, I want to do different things like than anybody else is doing, right? Like even the last show, it was a very strange show. We talked about the Long Island serial killer.
Is this all because we got called a podcast that makes fun of other podcasts?
No, that's not what he was doing there. That's not what he was doing there. Keith's
here.
What is going on here tonight? Keith would be a great contestant.
That he would be.
Well, I was just thinking, I was like, you should just have a
contestant.
bunch of your guests on that you've had before, like get Brian Holdsworth, Pints with Aquinas, Thursday.
Well, I would
have them all
definitely
do it.
want to do that. Definitely would want to do that. So I mean, obviously Nick would be there. We would have some
Mark
of our
and Jason,
older,
of course,
big guests coming back on, Jason, Mark. But that I would like to ask whoever is in locals, I would like to ask them, hey, do you want to come on and play with us? You know, do you want to play?
Some of these people we've known.
We're talking about trivia, Keith. We used to run a trivia show on this channel. And we're thinking about bringing it back, and but I want to do it with a little bit of a twist. Maybe, you know, bring it back so that a little different.
What you could do is if you were to like structure it right, if you were to have a ton of locals participation, you could structure it where it's something like, 8 contestants, episode 1, another 8 contestants, and then do it like brackets where you're going up and up and up to some type of final where it's some pretty epic prize.
So the thing is, it's hard to do more than 6 people on screen.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Just,
like it'd be cool.
It's too much chaos. I mean, you could fit up to 10, but it's too much chaos. So we would have to do
8 is really like 8 is the real like limit.
Yeah,
Anything more
exactly.
than 8 is.
So you probably want like 4.
You'd have to do the 3 of us every episode, right? Bring back Jason one week and a local supporter would be ideal. The next week we'd have Mark and a local supporter. The next week we'd have Brian Holdsworth and a local supporter, Keith Nestor and a local supporter. And you'd have 6 people on screen. Me and Rob aren't playing. It would be like 2-on-2.
Mm-hmm.
It would be.
You know what we should do? We should do 1 Peter 5 versus Trad Recovery.
We typically did traditional trivia, so because we always wanted people to learn more about traditionalism.
Also because we had the traditional version of the game.
But I did a lot of Bible trivia.
I know
a lot.
You know who has a
lot of
really
Bible trivia.
You should check this out for trivia, Anthony. Although you'd have to be careful because people might. Well, actually, if the resource I was going to send to you, it's a whole Catholic trivia game. And it's traditional, but I don't want to throw it out there just because someone might buy it
probably
and throw it out there. Yeah, I'll speak to you off screen about it. But
I likely have it already. Well, that's actually so. My cousin bought me the game, and that's what gave me the idea to do the trivia show.
Okay,
and had Rob on as the first guest, and Rob had the game too and memorized every single question in the game.
I spent 6 hours in the car the weekend before that first trivia episode memorizing the questions.
Well, I just remember like the first trivia we did on MOC, like the last question that Rob asked was about brewing beer, and it was like, what order brews this type of beer?
It was clearly the Franciscans. That should be obvious.
But it was like a niche Franciscan or something like that.
Yeah, the Pauliner Franciscans.
Yeah, no one got it, and I won by default.
Well, anytime I let anybody else do the questions, it was like nobody got the answers. They just went such hard questions. So Father Nick's would be an awesome guest one episode, right? So
hold on, while we're talking about this, we should promote the merch store.
Yeah, so we all right. A couple of things we're promoting. All right, we'll promote the merch store. Also, if you guys have a chance, you could get out to Catholic Palooza, July 27th in New Jersey. Enoch's coming to stay with me Thursday from Pints with Aquinas. Ryan Katsu Rivera from Gavin McInnes' show is going to be there. It's going to be a big fun festival we're going to July 27th. If you go, use code AB27 when you buy your tickets. And now Rob's got some interesting things in the merch store from last episode.
Yeah, so you have to be careful what you put in the comments of this show because it might just end up on a shirt.
So
Harambe was the catacomb.
I mean, you got to think about how much things fell apart since Harambe died. I mean, he may well have been the catacomb.
I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 160,000 people wrote in Harambe for the 2016 election. Some crazy number like that. 160,000.
It's pretty high.
That link is in the description for everyone.
So what we planned on doing tonight, we are going to, all right, so trivia is being talked about behind the scenes, guys. For any new listeners, if you guys never saw our trivia show, it is very unique. It's very different, very heavy audience participation. We always give a prize out.
I win every round.
Nick was very, very, very good at the game. But yeah, it was a fun game. Like the audience plays and they participate and stuff. So,
one thing I want to do, whoever it was that Sid Harambe was the Catagon, email me at email me at this.
That might have been Mike. I think that was Mike. I could go back and find the clip.
Yeah. Well, we can find the name, but they still need to email me their shipping info, and I'll send
follow
them.
each other on Twitter, so I'll shoot him a DM or something.
I'll send them. I'll send him the stuff.
Yeah, he watches most of our stuff. He'll probably see this. All right, so for tonight we have a few things. We had I want to talk about the. Oh wow, yeah. See, that's why we said it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to talk about the Amazonians getting Starlink internet. Should we push that off and do that later? Yeah, maybe we'll do that later.
Okay.
We're not going to bury the lead tonight. We're going to do the Jordan Peterson clip because the thing is, I saw this on YouTube, so it was already played on YouTube. So I know we won't get a strike or anything like that, but it is, I can't believe he got away with saying it. And we're just going to play it and hope for the best.
Let it be known that if we get struck down, it's Anthony.
Yeah, this was my idea.
It's never Rob.
Having this interview in Pride Month, and so what are my thoughts about Pride Month? Well, the first thing I would say is that you should be very careful what you name things. And pride is not a virtue. And I've brought that up with people before, and their objection always is, well, they don't really mean pride. People are just trying to affirm their own identities. And, you know, fair enough, I suppose, to some degree, but that was the name that was chosen, and that's the name that stuck. And pride is a cardinal sin, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is that pride means something like stubborn refusal to change when evidence of error is accruing, and it's not a good thing. There's a real tinge of narcissism, sexual narcissism, about the whole pride spectacle. And, you know, do people have the right to express their sexuality the way they see fit? To some degree, if it's consensual and among adults, but generally among human beings with any degree of civilized comportment whatsoever, it's a pretty damn private affair. We tend to be private in our sexual conduct as a species. And so this isn't exactly private. And
okay, pause it right there. We'll jump in there. So I would push back on that we're generally private about it as a species. I would say we're generally private about it in the Christian West up until recently.
Yeah, I would say I'd add maybe a layer of nuance to it. I'd say on the one hand, so he's wrong
You don't
about
have a license to use that word. Don't you know that?
You're right. It is copyrighted by a charitable YouTuber. There is one nuance I guess I'd add to it, which would be, on the one hand, he's wrong about, you know, as long as it's consensual, go for it.
Yeah, of course.
That's just obviously classical liberalism. There's no like reference to the created order or anything like that. So that's a problem.
There's
But
no inherent actual right there.
yeah, exactly. But I would say the scholastics actually talk about, they'll actually ask the question, why is there shame, even like a tiny bit of shame, in the marital act between husband and wife? Like, why is there even there that like small level of shame? And they'll say that that's actually one of the kind of consequences of original sin. Like, that's just one of the effects, if you will, from it, not the punishment, of course.
Well, like the need, Adam and Eve feeling the need to cover themselves when they're the only two there.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would say, I would agree with you, Anthony. I think that on the one hand, it's like, I think I would just say, without all divine grace, people just go obviously off the wall. But even then, I like his phraseology of like sexual narcissism, because that's just what it is. It's unnatural, it's abnormal, and that's just what it is.
Did you ever see there's an interview, it's between like NBC and some like Muslim country, or, you know, leader of a Muslim country, and she's like hammering down on him about like, well, you know, people with same-sex attraction, they can't show their affection in public. He's like, yeah, neither can people with, you know, heterosexual attraction.
I remember.
He's like, this is just something we don't do in public. He's like, I don't care if you're a man and a woman. If you're showing a public display of affection, you'll face repercussions. This is something you keep in the privacy of your home. He's like, so they were trying to like hammer him down, and he's like, yeah, like if you have same-sex attraction, you're not going to prison. If you do something lewd in public, if you're, you know, it's the same thing with Russia. Russia has this rule where you can't do any propaganda. So if you fly a flag, a pride flag or something, there's going to be consequence. That is actually the most just thing in the world, because you want your society to do that. We have this weird understanding of what free speech is in America, and we think that there should be any freedom of expression, no matter how harmful it is.
It was like
rotting our society.
Spain under Franco. You could be a Protestant or a Muslim. That was fine. But you couldn't own a radio station to broadcast your false religion. You couldn't try to convert.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually what so Pope Gregory the 16th in his condemnations of liberalism. So this is pre-syllabus of errors even by Pius IX. He calls religious liberty and freedom of the press an absolute insanity. And the reason that he calls them these things is that he says, aside from the fact that it devalues objective Christian liberty, he says, really, this is only the liberty to do that which is evil. And when that which is evil takes over a society, only that which is evil will be accepted and tolerated in that society, which we see today. And so, as an example, like back in, the early 2010s, the whole line of the left was, we'll just tolerate two people who love each other, let them get married. We're not saying you guys can't do your thing and have your own church, et cetera, et cetera. Now, of course, the roles are completely, flipped. It's, we want to force this down everybody's throat. You have to accept. In fact, we're going to teach it to your children in public schools. And the reason that this all happens, of course, and the reason that the church doesn't say anything about this is, of course, that whole notion of religious liberty rooted in man's human dignity. And so we can't touch it, unfortunately.
Do you think someone with SSA can be fixed, or are they deemed to celibacy without possibility for religious vocation?
I think it depends on what their attraction is rooted in.
Yeah.
If it's rooted in the vast majority of the times, I'm sure it is rooted in some sort of psychological wound, then yeah, I think they can be healed, and largely healed through the sacraments, and then also through the mental health profession in some way or form. So if that's what it's rooted in for most people, then I think it probably can be.
I agree.
Aren't there monastic orders that don't involve priesthood?
Yeah, so generally, at least the policy that I've heard from various priests is that if someone has what they call just deep-seated homosexual tendencies, which again, that can be a bit ambiguous because it's like you said, Rob, where is it rooted in? Then, of course, you don't want to join a monastic order or much less become a priest. However, if it's something that's maybe wounded in like a trauma that's not so deep, right, maybe through healing, etc., things could be reversed. I agree with you, Rob, though. It's like grace heals nature. And so therefore, I think this whole line that the church kind of gives today of just be celibate, I think is somewhat of a defeatist. I think there's truth in it, but I think if they're just focusing on be celibate, it's defeatist. Because again, I think...
Well, they're afraid to go down the conversion therapy route because they don't want to get hammered for it.
Exactly. When you go back to Prumer, like Father Prumer, or any old moral manual, they'll call homosexuality, it's rooted in some type of psychological disorder. So it's some trauma, something in the past that has brought this about, some type of lack maybe of formation. And the sacraments 10,000% can heal it. However, of course, right, you have to be open to the reception of that grace. And so I think it can be reversed, but I think it takes some time.
Yeah, it's hard for us to say because none of us struggle with it. So it's...
I've seen two people on Twitter who had struggled with it, who both over the last year or two upon coming into the church found for the first time themselves being at least somewhat attracted to the opposite gender.
My friend when so some people know about this story, but when I came into the church, right, I came in with 3 other dudes, and one of these guys, I won't say his name because want to keep it somewhat anonymity, but he struggled with some same-sex attractions pretty strongly. Anyway, long story short, like 2 weeks ago, he got married to his wife in the church.
Yeah.
Right. So that like grace literally reversed his life.
I think about some of the disordered attachments I had that were healed. It's like, well, why can't other disordered attachments be healed?
Exactly.
I mean, do we believe God gives grace or not? Like, why are we so convinced that God can't? I'm not saying pray the gay away. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like God can do anything. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not possible. I don't. It's difficult because I don't struggle with it.
And I think a lot of it, especially for a lot of women, it is at this point a sociological issue.
Yeah.
Well, you have to understand, women are more fluid in their attraction
because they need to be attracted to someone that can provide for them. And right now,
and
they don't feel a lot of
through history how many women were forced to marry men they wanted nothing to do. So women are more fluid in what they can be attracted to. Right? It's just the way God made them out of mercy towards them. So I mean, you think about how many women were you know, in a
Well, I mean,
tribe or something, and all
how
of a
many
sudden a
men-
new tribe comes in, murders the husbands, and just takes the women as
well,
you know,
for-
they have to.
how many men would say that they've married up? Almost all of us, right?
Yeah,
And there
Yeah,
is some
that's true.
truth to that. So, like
Yeah.
you said, women are attracted to someone who, at least when they're not on, you know.
Well,
birth
it's not just
control.
that. Like, you'll hear women say all the time, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful." You know, you'll never hear me say, "Look how handsome Nicholas is." Like, it's just not gonna happen. You know, it's just women are just a little more. So I think the healing is probably easier in women than men, because with men it probably has to do with a father wound and their whole understanding of masculinity and stuff.
Like this.
Yeah.
Engaged to a long-term boyfriend. He broke it off week of the wedding because of cheating. Then they got back together, broke up. Now she's marrying a woman. Yeah, I know tons of women like that.
Yeah,
I know several women who were married, had kids, the marriage ended, and now they have a wife or a girlfriend, you know?
Yeah, it's the old adage that women are primarily attracted. Oh, thanks. Women are primarily.
That sounded so grateful, Nick.
No, I appreciate it. It's kind of the Gen Z meme at the moment.
Nick
where
is
it's like-
handsome. I will say that. You're right.
I'm just reminded of the meme where maybe you guys have seen it on Twitter or something, but it's the guy or it's the girl, you know, she's crying because she only got 100 DMs complimenting her looks in one given day. Meanwhile, the guys are like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I was 6 and my grandmother
got a hug.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's like this
True
one
thing for
time
me."
someone
told me
said
have a nice
something
smile.
nice to me. It's like girls need constant affirmation. Where a man, like one compliment from a decade ago, he still, it like sits in his heart, you know.
Yeah.
Dude,
All right,
so
let's jump back.
true.
Let's jump back to the clip.
Something as narrow as sexual desire, let's say, aren't identities at all. They're pronouncements of subjection to instinctual whim. And I also have a real problem with the idea of the LGBT plus, etc. community, because it's not a community. And it's especially not a community right now because the trans pushing, gender affirming butchers and liars primarily target young people whose most likely outcome on the sexual front is homosexuality. So the transgender.
Oh, that's
Okay,
yeah.
did it end
You
there?
split it.
Yeah. Okay, so I cut it into two separate clips. So he's all right. There's a couple things here. Like he's kind of right? He's kind of right in that if a girl was even like a tomboy, you remember when we were younger, like there were girls that were just tomboys. They were into sports and stuff. Like when we talked to Nancy Charles, she always said, she was like, I was just a tomboy, you know? And then all of a sudden she was brought into this modern era where she was going to a therapist, and the therapist was like, well, maybe you're gender fluid. Maybe you're really a man. And like trying to convince her that she got her gender all mixed up. And I think they don't allow for girls to be tomboys anymore. And typically what you find is, so if you read Abigail Shriver's book, I think that's her name, she talks about how at one point, I guess when I would have been in high school, there would be groups of girls who would be like goth, right? They'd wear very dark clothing, dark makeup. They would maybe be cutters, things like that. Those girls don't exist anymore. Those are the girls who are going, and they go as a group. There'll be 5 or 6 of them together that convince each other that, hey, we're non-binary. We need to go for this surgery together. And they do it in groups together. It is 100% a social contagion. So I agree with him on that. I don't necessarily agree that those kids would even have been same-sex attracted, though. I think they'd have just been like the weird kid in school finding just a way to stand out and be part of a group because they didn't fit in with the popular kids. So they found their own way to be part of something.
Yeah. And it makes sense kind of going back to what you were saying earlier about women and attraction. Like women, obviously, their attraction is initially much more in how they feel about something. And that can be true like in a sexual connotation, or that can be true in just wanting to feel part of a group. I saw this video, maybe you guys saw it, but PragerU put it out. I'm not really a huge fan of PragerU, but I just saw it come across my feed. And this guy was interviewing a bunch of homosexuals in, I think it was Los Angeles or something over the past weekend. And he was asking the question, has the gay movement gone too far? And one of the individuals, again, homosexual dude, he said something very interesting to me. And this is a young guy. He said, I think transgenderism is the fad of Gen Z in the same way that cutting ourselves was the fad in the 90s. And I was thinking, yeah, of course, it's man without grace, crying for love, ultimately love and attention, but looking for it in the wrong place.
Yeah, I remember like when I was a kid, like I jumped the fence and I cut my arm, and I remember making it look worse than it was. Like I cut it deeper to be like, oh man, look at my scar, you know?
Like one of the as a boy and as a young man, like we had other ways to get out like self-destructive behavior, right? Like we had violent sports and things like that.
I fought a lot. I had a lot of fist fights growing up. I mean, the last episode I talked about, I fought the kid's older brother that is in the main episode of that podcast. I had a lot of fights when I was in high school, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably me dealing with my inadequacies. So I was always trying to convince people how tough I was and things like that. And it's just, No,
exactly. It's like we would, like when I was a kid, we would go outside, we'd build tree houses, forts in the woods, we'd play with, sticks and stuff like that, like every boy should. I think it was Enoch asked me on like Get to Know Nick Cavazos like a year and a half ago. He asked a really good question. He said, do you think your generation was the last generation to play outside? And I said, in mass numbers and that being normative, yes. 1,000%.
Well, you're Gen Z, right? So
I'm really late or early Gen Z though. So it's like I'm 98.
You're like a late millennial.
Yeah. So it's like growing up, like we got rid of our TV, like cable TV in 2007. But even then it's just like, if you were a kid in the early 2000s during the Iraq War, you were outside most of the time doing something.
Okay. So my son's 18. So he's 7 years younger than my son is Gen Z. Like this is his first time voting.
Oh, cool.
He's almost alpha, Gen Alpha.
Yeah, he's like bored. So maybe my daughters are, right? Like
your youngest probably is.
Stella's 13, right? So she's probably alpha.
Gen Alpha starts in 2011, I think.
My daughter's born in 2010, so she's the end of Gen Z.
Okay.
Okay, so my son and his friends always played outside, but it was because like we knew the parents and like we forced them to.
Mm-hmm.
But my son hated just sitting inside on his phone. He always did. He always wanted to like he would have to drag his friends to go and do. So that's why like he organized this senior assassin day. Like he was always trying to get his friends to do stuff, and he always liked to, he always wanted to go camping with me and like stay out in the woods overnight. But I do think there are tons of kids his age that are just sitting in front of the stupid video. I think
like with everything else, I think there is going to be a very stark dichotomy going forward between the young kids whose parents force them outside and who really take to that and really eschew all the technology and then the other side who's going to be completely invested in it 100%.
Yeah,
I mean we're kind of seeing that break with everything in our culture.
The other thing, Todd saying Anthony a fighter, I don't believe it. Part of the reason I was always a fighter was because of my dad. My dad, growing up, always told us stories about fights he got in. Always. Like it was like he always wanted to prove to his boys how tough he was, He'd be like, yeah, I fought this guy this time. I fought that this one time this guy talked to your mom and I fought her. So I remember being like 13 and getting in my first fight, and I won the fight, and I couldn't wait to come home and tell my dad, like, Dad, I got in my like he was telling me his war stories all the time. It was he would just repeat them all the time. He made me think like I had to be tough, like to impress my dad. I wanted to be tough. And I remember coming home and I got in a little bit of trouble at school. I got detention, but I thought my dad was gonna be like, yeah, you want. He freaking flipped out on me. I got in trouble. And I'm like, are you insane? I'm like, I was doing this to prove how tough I was to you. And you're over here telling me I'm in trouble now. He's like, well, you should be the peacemaker at all times. I'm like, what? This is the total opposite of everything you've ever told me. Like, I don't get it,
Maybe he was like doing a little bit of like psychotherapy to himself. He was just trying to like, maybe he hated it so much he was trying to make it sound good to his mind. He's throwing it out there.
I don't know. Like he was caught between wanting to be the cool dad and the responsible dad, I think.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to be the cool dad and tell us how tough he was, and then all of a sudden he saw like I made a vow to never tell my kids about my fights. Like I never wanted my son to be a fighter because
instead we all get to hear about him, guys.
Yeah, until your son watches the show.
Let me tell you something about fighting though. You have this incredible pressure on you to win the fight and be the tough guy, and you have butterflies in your stomach before it. Like you can't. I don't care how tough somebody is. You are a nervous wreck before you go until you throw that first punch. So I remember all the fights I got in being just so freaking nervous. Like, oh, why did I get myself into that? I was always my mouth, me shooting off my mouth, saying something stupid.
Now those are like the fights that are more or less just a fight. But like, have you ever like fought out of like pure conviction? And if so, did you have the same nervousness before?
No, once or twice, and it always involved my wife. Like we were at a restaurant one time, and I was with another couple, and there was a guy there with about 8 of his friends, and he walked behind my wife. My wife was wearing a scarf, and he like tugged on my wife's scarf to get her attention. And something clicked in me, and I grabbed it. He was like 10 of his friends there, and I just threw him into the freaking wall. Like they had to have like 5 people pull me off this guy. I was going to murder him. Like I don't know. I don't want to even. I'm not trying to just talk tough. Like there's something with my wife or my kids. If something like that happens,
like that. Was that over in Germany? The guy the comedian said something sexual, made a sexual joke about the guy's kid online.
Snapped in that guy. He
showed up. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, that's not him being a violent. That's like something clicks in a father or a husband when it's your wife or kids that you just,
your inner Will Smith came out.
Yeah, you don't think at that point. You're just in defense mode.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say about the Jordan Peterson stuff is it's just part of the thing that upsets me the most is that why is it left to a clinical psychologist from Canada who has questionable opinions on Christianity to be the spokesman.
Clothing taste.
Yeah, his clothing is odd. But why is it his role and not any of the leadership of the church to come out and talk like this?
The simple fact is, and this will go into our next story, but the simple fact is that I would say twofold. One, since the council, the church's MO on dealing with the world has been one of dialogue, not one of authoritative teaching, which has been not just a travesty in output, but it's also kind of betraying the very duty of the church, because like the church is the instrument by which God saves the world. So if the church is not speaking on these things in a definitive manner, in a declarative manner, then it's a travesty. But then second of all, it's because there's a lot of homosexuals that run everything inside of the Vatican. A lot of homosexuals.
It's gay. Stop it. Rob, good timing.
That was epic, Rob. Let's go.
Meanwhile, our bishop.
Yeah. There is a lot of homosexuals in the American priesthood. I'm making a video today. I found this article of this guy talking about his pre-Vatican II versus post-Vatican II seminary experience. And this old priest is talking about, yeah, man, like when we were in seminary before the council, we had to wear and he hates this stuff, mind you. He's dogging. He's like, we had to wear cassocks and we had to go through the deposit of faith, and we had these superstitious things called rosaries, and we had to do adoration every day, and mass was required. And man, whenever the council was over, we got to do mass and serve mass in our normal clothes. We could sleep in. We tossed the rosaries. And this dude's lauding the fact. He's praising all of this. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably because you're filled with the spirit of the age, if not a homosexual as well.
Yeah, and I also think it was just such poor catechesis at their time. I really think none of them actually understood what the purpose of the cassock was. I think
they did, but I think it was total rebellion. I think they understood it, but they were so infected with the modern philosophical errors. Like even just think about how like we have to DB programmed from liberalism in the US. But picture if you're in continental Europe, where there's just been the French Revolution, the Communist Revolution, all kinds of stuff. They were waiting and they were happy.
I forget what book it's from. I saw a excerpt from it on Twitter, and I have a bookmarked on Twitter somewhere. But it was someone who went to seminary in the 60s and 70s, and they said that at that point, like 50% were gay. So that means 50% of the oldest generation of priests right now is homosexual.
Well, we're going to do that story. So after we finish this next Peterson clip, Catholic priests are the sleeper cells in Rome's Rainbow Revolution is basically what we're going to talk about next. But let's finish the Peterson stuff.
Primarily target young people whose most likely outcome on the sexual front is homosexuality. So the transgender affirming butchers and liars are differentially destroying the youthful gay community. And that's not a community by any stretch of the imagination. And there's a famous conservative thinker, Chesterton, and Chesterton has a concept, the fence, and Chesterton's fence is based on the observation that if you're walking somewhere you don't understand and you come across a fence, you should probably not tear it down because you don't know what it keeps in or out. And the Pride movement has torn down.
Couldn't that be like equally applied to like the TLM?
1,000,000,000%. I've heard this actually used by professors as an argument to keep the TLM. And they'll say like it's like knocking out a wall. You may not know, the purpose of said wall, but to just knock it out with no reason is a bad idea. And that was actually the reason that so many bishops wanted to get rid of elements of the traditional masses. They said it's repetitive and we don't know why it's here. Go read their writings.
Well, it really plays into what the TLM was doing when it was celebrated widely like that, was restraining the evil one. Mm-hmm. And when they restricted the traditional mass, started celebrating the Novus Ordo, and they cut all these processions off, and they stopped all the beautiful rituals we did before, it was a fence that kept evil down, and it allowed evil to just burst out onto the scene. Now, this evil was pressing up against the fence very hard before these changes, right? You have the sexual revolution going on. You have all these things in the culture happening. This fence is bowed out with pressure at this point. Then they take the mass away, and it was just like the floodgates were open, and it
burst. Yeah, and it makes sense. Do you guys know Father Gregory Bum? You guys ever heard that guy's name before?
Was he the one who did in the Novus, wrote some of the Novus Ordo stuff and then dropped out of the priesthood to be gay?
Pretty close. He was one of the main three writers for Dignitatis Humanae, what we're talking about with religious liberty, and Nostra Aetate, the Vatican II's document on other religions. Homeboy helps write some of these things. After the council's over, drops out of the priesthood, gets married, right, to a woman, married to her for a while, then commits adultery with her with a dude, divorces his wife, and then becomes the lead revolutionary of the gay rights movement in the early 1990s. Continued throughout the 90s. He was a huge name in the gay rights movement. Father Gregory Bum, one of the main writers of these documents that are very much so progressive and liberalizing. And so again, it makes sense when you go back and do the research and you see that the communists were prepared, the homosexuals were prepared. And then someone in the comment section, they put out a good question. They were like, why would you become a priest if you're gay? And it's like, but why wouldn't you if it's full of men? Monasteries are full of men. There's access to young boys and things along that nature.
Well, okay, so let's take away let's take even away that angle, especially before the revolution. You're talking about I kind of understand the urge to not have to explain away why you're not attracted to girls, why you're not getting married. You know what I mean? It's like you could go do a thing, have a respectable position, be respected by everybody, and nobody's hounding you for why aren't you married? Why aren't you married?
Yeah, and you're just like, I'm gonna go become a priest.
So you go and become a priest, and it's and then I understand that. But once you get into after the revolution happens, now it becomes a predator club.
Yeah.
Now it becomes, we only elevate those who have the same inclination, because now you have men in power and positions of power and authority who have that inclination, and they're only pulling up the guys doing them favors, and now it's a big secretive thing.
Yeah.
Well, that and in America, especially, things were a little different in the 60s and 70s because it was a way to get out of the draft for Vietnam.
Oh,
Yeah,
was
that's
it?
true. That's a good point, Rob.
So, for anyone who was especially effeminate, not masculine and could never think of joining the military, that was a way to get out of the draft. So I think that's one reason why America especially was heavily affected.
Wow,
That's
I
a good
never
point.
knew that. I didn't
That's
know
a good
priests
point,
were
though.
exempt. I thought they had to like go be chaplains or things like that, or priests in the field.
Well,
You
I
just had to
think
go through all the training and stuff. So it's like if you were like, it takes 7 years, so that's a good 7-year excuse where you're like, yeah, I can jump in and I'm not even obliged to do my final profession until I hit the subdiac and at 5 years in. So maybe this thing will be done in 5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plus Catholicity was way stronger back then.
Mhm.
So it wasn't so crazy, right? Where now, after the priest scandals, I think everybody, when somebody hears, "Oh, I'm going to seminary to be a priest," people look at you like, "What? Are you
Yep.
crazy?"
Oh, yeah.
Like
back then it was respectable.
right. That's what I mean. Like now it's like, who would subject themselves to that kind of ridicule? It really, look, for the good priests out there, man. God bless you, because the ridicule you endure from the culture, the amount of times you hear the Catholic Church is a pedophile, it's just the amount of comments I hear just as a lay Catholic. I can't imagine what you go through as a priest.
Right.
I wisely heard it said once that, there's basically 3 types of people who have, quote, vocations, if you will, to the priesthood. Those who hear the calling from God to genuinely go and become a priest. Those who hear their own inner voice, right? Maybe it's pride or vanity or whatever. And then those who are called by Satan.
Yeah,
to be
it's a
priests.
great way to phrase it.
Yep.
And that's the reality. It's like when you look at the whole movement that wants to change the deposit of faith, they dialed the wrong number. They were getting a phone call from somebody else.
Yeah, and those people that have the inner voice, a lot of those are just activists, right? So you see it all the time. Any woman who says, "Why can't women be this? Why can't you're not called to anything?" There's never been a woman in history called to the priesthood. It's impossible. So who's calling you? It's either the devil or you're a narcissist and you just want to go in and you want to be an activist. It's as simple as that, But men suffer from that too. It's, some have a genuine calling. Did either of you guys watch the interview with Taylor and Father Calvin Robinson?
I saw some clips from it. A few clips.
I saw the whole thing. I thought it was great.
Was it?
Yeah, because it was a very interesting conversation. Both of them stood on their convictions and were still very cordial. So Taylor wasn't like Mr. Nice Guy about it. He was like, no, look, I'm going to push back on you on this. But it didn't get hostile at all. They both just held their position and said, this is why I believe this. This is why I believe. It was a good conversation. It was probably one of my favorite Calvin interviews that I've seen, because even when I interviewed him, like, you guys don't realize how difficult it is to push back on somebody when you're talking to them. It's a hard thing,
especially when you genuinely like them.
Exactly.
Right.
And you also you approach them in a friendly manner, right? Like, you didn't like, I don't want to have enmity between Calvin Robinson and me. Like, I asked the guy for a couple of weeks to come on, and he finally he made time in his schedule to come on. So I was just like, look, I'm not gonna have him on to argue about his ordination. Like, and times right now are so confusing. It's like, I don't even know how I would, like, I'm not gonna be the debate guy. I'm not, I just wanted to genuinely talk to the guy. But Taylor's way more knowledgeable than I am. So listening to him, because he actually understands the Anglican branch theory, and because he was an Anglican priest at one point, so he understands all of the inside baseball of what Father Robinson went and did. It was an interesting conversation. If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely worth it.
Branch theory, bro. So cringe.
It is.
It's so cringe. It's so cringe.
All right, let's play the rest of that clip, because he actually gets crazier and, like, not crazier. He gets more and more harsh as he goes through.
A lot of fences, and maybe some of those fences needed to go, but all of them didn't need to go. And there's plenty of monsters coming out to play now. And I would say that's especially true on the transgender affirming side. And that's why we're seeing this butchery in the medical community, abetted by idiot allies and driven by greed. And those aren't the worst monsters that exist. And so if you tear down enough fences, you're going to find out what they're for. Now, I read recently, like this week, that support for gay marriage is plummeting. Right. It's like, well, keep pushing. You're going to lose everything you've gained. And I'm not celebrating that at all. That's not the point at all. But like, I'm just done with it. I don't like the flag. I think it's a piece of idiocy. I don't understand why it changes every bloody week. I don't know who makes those decisions. I don't like the acronym and all the mystery surrounding it. I don't like the fact that the LGBT agenda, whatever that is, increasingly dominates the school system. I don't like the fact that it's targeted at young people. And I think the surgery, the gender affirming care movement, I think it is Nazi Auschwitz level awful. Wow. That it should not only stop, and now, as they've decided to do in the UK and in most places.
Ironically, it was them who kind of stopped that movement in Germany.
In Europe. But I think all the people that were involved in the surgical transition of minors should be imprisoned. So there's a lot of house cleaning to do on the pride side of things. And I don't believe that a celebration of an identity that encapsulates something like 3% of the population before it became a fad is inclusive in any manner whatsoever. So I think pretty much all of it's a lie. And it's a dangerous lie. And it's a lie with real monsters hovering on the edges. And so, and like, enough, as far as I'm concerned, enough pride in the churches, enough pride in the bloody banks. I don't want to walk into the Bank of Nova Scotia and be celebrating pride. It's like, I want to go and put my money in or take my money out without any political idiocy, and certainly without any celebration of sexuality. I don't know what the hell the banks think they're doing. And the churches, well, that's just, for the churches to be flying pride flags, it's like, pride is the cardinal Christian sin. Right. So what the hell? What's going on with the flags exactly? What exactly are you celebrating here? Tolerance. It's like, yeah, tolerance of vice is not a virtue, and pride is a vice.
He said more truth in that statement than the average Catholic priest has said in 50 years.
That's that's why, look, because sometimes it gets a little tedious with what we're doing here. It's like, oh, we're playing another Jordan Peterson clip, but it's like, bro, where are the priests and bishops talking like this?
Well, I only know two things. One, they're in the SSPX, or two, they get canceled every time they say anything about it.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so they're in the SSPX, but I've been to a bunch of SSPX masses. I've never heard anything like that.
Your priest is old. That's your only problem.
A little bit, but even look, he always gives the best sermons I've ever heard are at a diocesan traditional mass. It's Father Hughes, and they're typically history lessons. They're not grand moral things. The other one would be Father Mayara in Manhattan at Holy Innocents. He will give a fiery moral, like he'll give you like he'll lay everything out moral wise, but he doesn't have he's a very monotone preacher, so he doesn't have the charisma, the fervor, the charisma that you're hearing from Jordan. Like, where are the clergy that are as upset about this?
I would just say, like, I understand priests preaching to a TLM congregation. Like, the TLM congregations they're not the ones that need to hear that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
They're the ones who do want the deeper theological homilies.
No, I'm talking in the culture. I'm saying, why? Look, you had so long where you had that Father John, whatever, the priest who wound up getting laicized so he could get married. He used to be on Fox News all the time.
Yeah, I remember him.
He was a priest at Our Lady of Mount Carmel in the Bronx. That freaking parish is one of the most beautiful parishes you've ever been to. You go in there, and the only thing that looks out of place is the picnic table they stuck in the middle of the freaking sanctuary. Mm-hmm. Now, you used to go there, and even their Novus Ordo, you would go and you would kneel and get intinction. The priest would dip the bread in the wine and he put it right on your tongue. Then Father John Morris comes in there, and it became just the most.
Well, I mean, he was a legionnaire, so
yeah. It was, when I talk liberal, it was just a liberal cesspool. It was just so bad. And now he would be on Fox News all the time, and he would be the conservative Catholic. Yeah. You have Cardinal Dolan. He would be the conservative Catholic on there. Not one Cardinal Dolan. I say, good for you. I say, whatever he said when the football player came out, it's just none of our clergy will get up and actually speak out against the most evil thing of our times, which is this ideology coming for our children.
Yeah, I mean, the Society's Superior General, he always puts out his main monthly newsletter, which is always pretty fiery. If you guys haven't read them, just go to the Society's website and you can kind of get them every month. They're pretty good, because he'll call out everybody because he's Italian and he doesn't care, like Anthony.
Oh, we know how that is.
But a real Italian. But yeah, no, I mean, I fully agree with you. I think the issue is that until the church moves past this whole experiment, we'll have this conversation a zillion times. That's just the reality, until we go back to just the simple truth that Christ is king in society, and therefore your abnormal behavior, it's not normal. You need salvation. It can't be tolerated. It can't be pushed on people. Until that becomes the focus again.
Yeah. But I think that us having this conversation is still important because the clergy's not having it, So
yeah, no, 1000%.
We're on repeat and we do say the same things a lot, but a lot of people are catching our show for the first time and have young kids and they're looking for ways to have conversations with their kids about this stuff. So it's like, okay, so I talked to Tim Gordon yesterday, and we were just talking about how kind of this stuff gets a little tedious sometimes, Oh,
sure. Yeah.
What are we doing? It's like every week we're looking for the new news story to talk about. That's why it's kind of why we drifted into some of these. Hey, let's talk about let's do react videos a little bit, because I don't necessarily want to always do news stories out of the church. So we're like, all right, let's do more cultural stuff. Let's discuss Jordan Peterson. Let's discuss whatever his name is, the who we do
what?
The freaking English guy we did last week. Oh, Russell Brand. Tonight we're going to do Tucker Carlson. We're trying to do more culture. I'm sorry, guys. I'm very tired. My brain's misfiring.
The English guy.
You know what I mean.
The loss of blood and concussion from the weekend are finally.
Let me tell you something. My hands, today's the first day it stopped bleeding. It was bleeding all week. I had every day I would take the bandages off and there would be blood in there. Today's the first day I opened the bandage and it wasn't bleeding. But the lack of sleep that I got this week just from, I don't know, just very, very bad sleep this week. But yeah, so I was talking to Tim about it and he's like, because you can see even Tim, he does his patriarchy thing, but then every once in a while he'll talk about something that came out of Rome. And he's like, sometimes I don't even want to do it. He's like, but I know that's what people want to hear. So I'm doing it. I'm like, it gets tedious.
No,
I'm like,
no. Do not. No. No. Don't even put that in his head, guys.
We have evidence of where it started. It was a boat that tried to kill him.
So me and him were like, dude, I have some really good show ideas, but I don't have the money for it. I don't want to say any of it because I'm going to the Catholic Identity Conference, I'm going to pitch a show to Candace. I'm going to. I have really good ideas. I don't have the money to because it would involve travel. It would involve time off of work. They would be really good ideas, really unique stuff that you're not seeing anywhere in the Catholic content creation space. Because
or even some of the ideas we've had that don't require money and travel, it requires time for sure. Without doing this full time, there's just not time for it.
Yeah, but the one or two of the ideas that I have really require a little bit of funding. Because I think everybody here is trying to be the Catholic Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And it's not happening. Matt Fradd, Taylor Marshall are trying to dip into that arena. We can't all be Michael Knowles. We can't all be Matt Walsh.
We all can't be Michael Lofton.
The thing is,
the Vatican's payroll is not big enough.
No, but people, you got to realize Michael Knowles and Walsh are doing political stuff,
right?
So if you I'm not
Anthony.
crazy.
Just say the word, and I will come on every night.
I know.
Talk about politics.
Well, we're gonna have John Frankman on after the debates, and we're gonna do a political show. We'll do I don't mind an episode here or there, Nick. I just can't be the political guy. I don't like politics. I used to, but
I love politics. I
I
would
know
come on
you
every
do.
single night and talk
I know
about
you
politics
do.
for a 5-hour stream every night.
But we will do a political show as we approach the election for sure. There's definitely stuff going on in the culture we're going to talk about. Paul, that is always the vibe I was going for with this show, though. Like,
the
that was
problem
always
is
the vibe I was going for.
Our potential audience, it's not big enough. I mean, it is because you do have people like Frad and Taylor, but
well, yeah, the Catholic audience is there aren't enough people in this sphere. Nick, are you America First? He's asking if you're. I think he's asking if you're like our Fuentes.
If you're asking in the context of Fuentes,
like you're not a groyper, but
I am not a groyper.
The overall philosophy,
it's mainly two things. One, I've just not looked a whole lot into his ideology. Second of all, what I have seen, I've just not really been super impressed with. If you mean America First as in like the old school paleo conservative, style, sure, yeah, 1000%.
So Joe and I talk to Joe every day again. I'm glad Joe popped out of his hole. Like he was in hiding for a while, but him and I talk pretty much every day again. We were talking about you today, Nick. Joe's like, freaking Nick's awesome.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
So what I was saying is everybody's trying to be that format. They're trying to do that format where it's, they want to be the big guy who everybody comes and talks to, or they want to be the Michael Knowles guy where he's the commentator on. I want to do something totally different. I think there's stories to be told and like genuinely helping people that would crush, because I think they're like, people are starving for it. They're like, I can't say the ideas publicly because I don't want anybody stealing them first off, and things like that. But I have such good ideas. I really should be a program director. Like, I have so many ideas.
I should sell these ideas to other Catholic YouTubers.
But the thing is, I would be good at hosting some of them, not all of them. Like, some of them I wouldn't be good at. Like Rob and I have even said publicly, like, we want to do some more like short form, in-depth shows on specific events in history, whether it's the Crusades or whether it's something in early church history. Like, I would love to, if I had the time, if I didn't have my regular job, me and Rob would sit and we would take you guys through church history. We would pick a century and go, okay, we're going to take you through the first century of Christian history. Then we'll do the second century and we'll show you how Christendom spreads throughout like, that is an awesome freaking show that people would love to hear.
Yeah.
But to do even like a 20-minute show where you have
high production,
where it's not just you talking in a camera, you have other footage, you have background music, stuff like that. A 20-minute show will take you
12 hours
just to produce the show. That's not counting the actual research, the reading. It takes a lot of time. Running
B-roll, the editing, but you have to read a book to get to. It's a lot of work, but it's. Margot, you don't like Candace, but Matt Walsh is talking to Candace again. Michael Knowles is talking to Candace again. They're having dinner. They all live in Nashville. Taylor Marshall went out to dinner with Michael Knowles and Candace the other day. Tim Gordon did too. I
personally thought that whole beef between she and Ben, it was just completely pointless.
Yeah,
like, it was pointless, not in the sense of like they could have had a good debate, because they obviously could have, but pointless in the sense of just how personal.
Who is Candace not getting along with the Daily Wire? Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring.
And I think the latter just because of Ben.
Just because of Ben, and then the other one, Clavin, whatever.
Oh yeah.
She doesn't get. Well, none of them are. All the Catholics at Daily Wire still love Candace. They understand. Like, okay, there's a reason. There's a reason.
Yeah, it's really sad, because honestly, I was really contemplating on whether or not I wanted to try to work for the Daily Wire, and after the whole SmackDown, I was like, I don't know, probably not anymore. So,
all right, so we're done with the Peterson stuff. The Peterson thing with the churches. If there's a rainbow flag at a church, that church is no longer a Christian church.
Satanic. It's openly
it's been conquered like that. Like, you have to think about what a flag is. A flag is a sign of conquer. Like when we went to the moon, we planted our flag. Not that we went there, but
the irony,
symbolically,
the irony. Unbelievable.
I did that on purpose. When they had Manifest Destiny, everybody would go out and plant their flag to get their 40 acres and a mule. It's like you planted your flag as a claim of ownership. So that's what a flag is. It's a claim of ownership. If there's a rainbow flag on a church, that church no longer belongs to Jesus Christ.
The purpose of flags, they were originally military standards used on battlefields by military forces. That's what a flag is.
Yeah. It's a statement of ideology and claim and everything. It's it's crazy because you have is it Samuel Alito that's under fire right now, Nick? Or which one of the justices is Sam Alito? So his wife flew an upside down American flag the day Trump was convicted, and they also flew another flag that somebody said it has something to do with January 6th, but it also really has its roots back.
Yeah, so it's an ancient U.S. style flag. Yeah.
Now, if a conservative flies a flag, that's it. It's the end of the world. But if the rainbow community flies a flag, all of a sudden, it's just the flag. What do you mean? The double standard is completely insane. I posted something the other day where I said, if this happened with a pride flag, would this person have been charged with a hate crime? Do you remember what it was, Rob?
Oh, was it the well, I mean, I don't know if it's this what you're referring to, but some dude the other day was charged because he drove a truck over one of those pride crossways, where they spray paint it and stuff.
Yeah, and he'll be charged with a hate crime.
Crosswalks. Yeah.
He'll be charged with a hate crime. But there was something where somebody did something to a conservative. I forgot what it was. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I posted something. I was like, and I said, if the situation was reversed and this was a pride flag, the person would be charged with a hate crime. Why is it not that way for when they do something to us? It's just, it's just the way it is.
I think it's so. Peterson, he said in another interview, I think within the last few days, he said, when you think about it, the whole pride movement, one of their core tenets is they don't want to be put into, a binary box of you're supposed to like girls or supposed to like boys. However, their whole movement places their entire identity into a small box, right? And it's the most animalistic box, right? Our sexuality. It's not the box of creativity in the context of the intellect, of the arts, or anything like that. It's just literally down to reproduction. So their whole pride is literally in who they're wanting to sleep with. Second off, the whole reason that, as an example, the banks and everyone else do it, there's ESG involved, obviously, when it comes to companies like BlackRock and finance and stuff like that, of how much money is being pumped into these companies. But just on a social level, a lot of these people do this because in a post-Christian society, we still have that natural tendency to want to be virtuous in a sense, right? It's clouded because of sin, but we twist it. And so what you see is just the manifestation of the substituting of self for God with their own virtues.
Yeah, man, it's so crazy. And then this whole conversation relates to the story that I sent you, Rob, with, oh man, Catholic priests are the sleeper cells in Rome's same-sex revolution. New book concludes that the protagonists of the gay revolution in the Church of Rome are almost exclusively Catholic priests.
For the record, you sent me a headline and not the article.
No, I sent
the article's above it. You're right.
Yeah, I sent the article. I sent the article yesterday, and I told you guys I wanted to talk about it.
Bro, that was rash judgment, Rob.
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. I'll confess next time.
Of the same-sex revolution in the Church of Rome are almost exclusively Catholic priests. This is an alarming conclusion. Why do they repeat in the body of the text the headline? Breach dam, the fiducia supplicants surrender to the same-sex movement, released last Monday in Rome by the American Society for Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property, a Traditionalist Catholic Society. Now, I'm not a fan of Jules Gomez. Jules Gomez was a reporter for Church Militant, and he is still doing something with Michael Voris. He's still working with Michael Voris on this.
Remember when he emailed Mark and Jason?
Yeah, he emailed Mark and Jason because they were posting traditional stuff from an anonymous account, and he was like, "Hey, I'm reaching out for comment on traditional Catholics that have anonymous accounts," and he was fishing for a story that he was gonna trash trads with anonymous accounts.
Lol. Remember when Church Militant used to exist?
What'd you say?
Just making a comment. I'm just like, laugh out loud. Church militant used to be a thing. That's funny.
Not just be a thing. They were
the thing.
They were the thing, man. To that fall from grace was unbelievably epic, man.
Yeah. But they've been replaced now by a shiny headed YouTuber. So.
Michael Voris's narcissism. He could, that whole operation could have been the biggest thing in Catholicism. He really hit like a point of like, okay, so you got to really think. Right when McCarrick happens, he interviews Taylor, Matt Fradd, like he starts having relationships with some of the other Catholics and not going it alone. And that freaking
choose a different word, please.
Going it
well,
alone.
you know what I mean, though. Like,
no relationships.
I just mean like interacting with other outfits that he didn't think. So what happened with Michael Voris is nobody paid homage to him. Like he thought, I'm the one who does the Catholic reporting. These guys, what he saw was Taylor Marshall's show doing better than his, and it drove him crazy because he spent millions of dollars on the studio and he had all these people working for him. And Taylor just popped a webcam on, and millions of people were tuning in to watch Taylor. Situationships. They're called situationships. So Voris went on this, it was like, if you don't pay me homage and say that I'm the greatest, I'm just going to start trashing. And he started trashing other Catholics. And it eventually led to him being alone on this island and just being the collapse of church militant. I think that probably drove him back to his past behavior.
That sounds very familiar with somebody else.
Well, the couple of times I've seen it has been disastrous. Voris, I don't want to throw him under the bus publicly, but Steve from 1 Peter 5, and Lofton. Like those are the guys I think of when I think of the people who let this thing that we're doing consume them, and it becomes their entire identity, and you lose your faith. Like when this becomes your job.
You can't put YouTube over the homies. It's just one of the true things about YouTube.
Yeah, it's more than that. You can't let this become your faith.
Or like Enoch said yesterday, he actually said on social media, he's just like, are you using social media to proclaim Christ, or are you using Christ
social media to
get
proclaim
social
yourself?
Media clicks? Yeah, exactly. Like,
are you proclaim yourself?
Yeah, like, are you basically using the person of Christ and the faith like a selling prop to get more followers?
Yeah, it's a hard line, man. It's a very or thin line, maybe. It's an easy line to blur because look, we want our thing to grow. Like there's incentive here. We're trying to make this profitable because we don't want to do it for nothing. I'm glad that Rob and I both have real jobs because we don't depend on this. It's kind of just like, it's nice if we can make something from it. We're not depending on it. I'll tell you the truth. It gets very difficult to do this at times because it's a lot of work, not a lot of payoff. But every once in a while, when I start to get discouraged, me and Rob will get a message.
Yeah.
And we both got one this week from one person that was like, I cannot tell you guys how important your show has been to my conversion. Rob, bring it up. Let's read it.
I was going to say I haven't, and he said we can share it. So.
Let's bring it up and read it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Now this was one.
Let me see if I can make. Of course, I can't make it bigger.
So he sent this message to me too. So hey, Rob, I hope all is well with you. I just wanted to give you and Anthony an update. You could just make it smaller. I could see it.
Can you?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. I'll message Anthony separately. I've been attending mass and receiving formation.
In case people are watching on a phone, I'm going to make it bigger.
Dude, just make it smaller so I can read it. Let me read it. I can't read it the way you're doing it. Massive receiving formation from my priest for nearly a year now. And this Saturday, Father judged that I should receive a conditional baptism, which should happen July 20th with confirmation later this year. I owe a lot to you guys. Ultimately, all glory goes to God alone. And I am so thankful to Our Lady for dragging me into the church through her rosary. But you guys have been a consistent source of joy and encouragement on this journey to the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. Thank you, Rob, for pushing me to get over my awkwardness and hesitation. By the way, it is actually through you guys that I met my godfather. I pray for you and your family every day, and your families every day, and will continue to do so. I'm so thankful for both of you and the beautiful community you guys have built. It means the world to me. God love you. Like, you don't know how much equity is in a statement like that.
Equity.
It makes you want to come back on the show.
Yeah, man. Like,
no matter how tired you are. Or,
I think I know who that's from, actually, because
you do,
I just helped an individual with that, and he's a person in the chat, so you know who you are. But yeah, no, that's epic, dude. That's awesome.
So that happened there. Then I post that obnoxious thing on Twitter every so often where it's, have you accepted Mary as your personal mother and intercessor?
You say that like we should all know instantly what obnoxious thing you're talking about.
Well, I do a lot of obnoxious things, but this one's particularly obnoxious. And it is absolutely a troll to Protestants, right? But this week I had somebody reach out to me and they're like, look, I don't understand this. You got to explain this to me, man. So
it was just so crazy and out there.
It was just so obnoxious. He's like, dude, I don't get this. Is like, what is this? Please explain this to me. So I'm like, look, I'll tell you what. If you're actually open to hearing what this is, I have no problem. Like, if you actually are open to it, I said, I'm not going to argue back and forth where you're trying to prove me wrong. But if you genuinely are curious, let's DM and I'll share some stuff with you. He goes, please do. So I shoot him a DM. We talk for a little bit. I explain some things through typology to him. He's like, hey, do you have like a video I can watch? I'm about to drive home. I send them one of our earlier videos. I actually sent them the Danielic mystery video because I always think that's a great intro video.
That's a good one, yeah.
And he messaged me back and he goes, this is the message he sends back to me. Hang on.
I can probably pull it up on your Twitter.
He's like, I've lost all faith in Italians. Never going back to Olive Garden.
No, he said, here it is. I just finished watching your podcast. That is exactly the type of content I've been looking for. I'm going to watch part 2 and then watch your catechism videos. Thank you for reaching out. Hey. Can you recommend the order in which I should read and learn about Catholicism? Start with the Bible, catechism, etc. So I just sent him 1 or 2 more videos. He said, you're awesome. I appreciate it. I'll be in touch. So it's, you never know what God's got. Like, me being an obnoxious shark on Twitter, God will use the strangest things, man.
And write straight with crooked lines, and Anthony with crooked lines.
And yes, Anthony will use that as rationalization for any and all posts going forward.
I actually, when you guys saying this, it reminded me. I wanted to give a really brief shout out. So when I was in St. Mary's getting confirmed 2 weeks ago, there's a viewer of this show. His name is John. I won't say his last name for anonymity, but John, you know who you are. He's from Amarillo, Texas. He drove all the way up from Amarillo to St. Mary's. I don't know if he was seeing someone else get confirmed, but he said part of it was to see me get confirmed, right? So he's an audience member. And he gave me this solid metal rosary, very beautiful, solid metal rosary, pretty epic. And on the bottom, there's like this ensealed dirt that I think comes from, I think it's like the tomb of our Lord or something. He said he told me
from the Holy Sepulchre.
Yeah, something to that effect. But it's so awesome, like the love and support you do get.
Did you meet Father Franks?
I know I saw him like 20 times, but I didn't walk up to him. And I thought, well, when I move here, I'll get a bite to eat with him, become his friend, because he seems like a real homie.
Saint Anthony Abate
what's up, man?
is my patron saint because that's actually Saint Anthony of the Desert. So if you actually Google Saint Anthony Abate, that is Saint Anthony of the Desert. I was right there when Nick was giving the rosary.
Yeah, that's my confirmation sponsor, if I believe, right there, who's chatting in there. He was the only person in the entire room to wear tennis shoes, like white tennis shoes, into the holy sanctuary. It was pretty funny.
I love anybody that does something.
I was gonna say, I just hope he doesn't say, yeah, Anthony said it would be okay.
All right, so let's finish the rest of this article because I don't know if we're doing locals tonight. I think we just might. It's getting late. I don't see how we will. So, Pope Francis admits to plague of. I'm not going to say that word on YouTube. A bolt from heaven must have struck the Vatican to vindicate the author's claims. The day the book was released, Italian media broke the story of Pope Francis telling the Italian Episcopal Conference that there was already too much. You guys know the word in Catholic seminaries. A media earthquake rattled the foundation of St. Peter's Basilica.
Bro, how long is this title now? LGBTQIA2.
Like to even type that out as a journalist, though, like I don't see how you type that out. As
are we sure that's? Are you sure that's not just some charismatic exclamation?
Yeah, it could be tongues. It could be tongues.
Dude, Oh, man, maybe we should just throw this story out and talk about what Kennedy did.
Part of me kind of wants.
Don, you better knock it off. We do locals every stupid episode. Every once in a while, we skip it.
Otherwise,
Anthony was building a moat today. You got to give him some.
We have those clips from Tucker and the president of El Salvador too. If you wanted to do that instead,
That's true.
All right, let's scrap this story. You guys get it. There's a lot of in the priesthood.
There's a lot of fruitcakes out there.
A lot
Let's
of
just put it that
fruitcakes
way.
in the priesthood, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Let's,
It's gay. Stop it.
hey, let's go, Rob. Really hitting it tonight. Oh man!
All right, you want to go to locals and do Tucker?
sure.
Sure, let's do it.
All right, guys. We're gonna go do a half hour over there tonight. Half hour on locals. You guys want to come? That's where we have all of our fun, though. So if you guys aren't already on locals,
That's
you
what we
don't
can
understand.
say the word.
Yes.
out loud.
Oh, you guys don't even know. We say the words over there.
We say the word.
We say the words over there. You guys see the guinea come out in me. All right, yeah. So
He's not hidden most of the time, man.
I know. I try. All right, yeah. So we're gonna go over the logos. We're gonna do the Tucker conversation because MS-13 is satanic, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could get into on that. So, guys, please go support your favorite channel. I know there's nobody else you enjoy. You know what we do? We make all the other guys you watch boring. There's no way you guys could go watch somebody else in their suit and, well, today.
Do you really want to sit there and watch Kennedy twirl his mustache?
There's no way you guys find those other guys as exciting as us. Come on.
Yeah,
Kennedy does get
I
really
love
more
Kennedy's
mad.
mustache.
He gets more mad.
Yo, you want to know what I came across today? I came across this guy called Beard Meets Food, and it looks like Kennedy Hall. It's this guy with this giant beard who just goes around and does food challenges. So he flies around all around North America, and he finds how they'll have eat this 96-ounce steak and a baked potato, and the meal is free. He goes around and he demolishes every one of these challenges, and he beats the record in every single one of them. But I just couldn't help thinking, I felt like watching Kennedy Hall fly around North America.
And if you guys wonder why we don't have time to do research for better shows, it's because Anthony's watching that.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm thinking, can we do a Catholic meets food thing, and me and Rob fly around the country?
It's Lent and we fly around to eat a salad.
We're gonna be the Catholic Mr. Beast, guys. That's what you got to do. Forget being the Catholic Rogan.
If you want more, academic stuff, go to my show, Traditional Thomas. Check it out over there. Because
absolutely, I'm sorry that we don't promote Nick's channel enough.
No, I'm doing it just because you told me to. It's actually funny. I get harassed in person because people are like, "Wow, you're so much more laid back here," and I'm like, "Yeah, because all my stuff over there is pre-recorded and it takes forever, and you just have to be serious."
Have you noticed an uptick in your subs since doing this with us, though?
That 1000%, to the point where my last video that I made, I got an extra 1,000 new viewers that YouTube had said I never had before. So it's getting out there.
Good. That's what we want. At minimum, we want Nick's channel to grow with ours, even if he doesn't put stuff out. So go subscribe to the Traditional Thomist. It's the least we could do to, for all the work Nick puts in over at this channel.
Yeah,
we do appreciate it. So, all right, we're jumping over to locals, guys. We'll see you there.
I'm not gonna play I'm just gonna cut it.
All right.
So give me a second.
What losers on YouTube?